Hello, and welcome to Young Global Leaders, where we get the chance to hear from young people hailing from all around the world, sharing about themselves, their accomplishments, and their vision for a better world. Recently, I had the privilege of leading a group of about 100 young people from over 40 countries to 7 global regions on an 8-month global gap year program. Most of them had just graduated from high school, though we also had a few older students. During our 8+ months together, the students formed a deeply loving and supportive community. Anyone could see that they had built something unique and inspiring. Through my eyes as a teacher, coach, and global leadership consultant, what I saw was unlike anything I'd seen before. When the program ended, I desperately wanted to keep in touch with these students and to share their example with the world. So I started the Young Global Leaders podcast. Today, we hear from Kynaat Beg. Okay, Kynaat Beg, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Can you start by telling our listeners where you're joining us from today?
Today I'm joining you from Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan.
And where specifically? You're at someone's home.
Yes, so I am currently in my grandfather's home. It's on a lake, so super beautiful. And it was also my childhood home when I was like 0 to 5. So it's very nostalgic.
Good. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. I wanted to start with maybe a bit of a deep question to lead with. Kynaat, what makes you you?
Well, I was actually thinking about this question, and I think it's such a difficult question to ask because I think when we think of ourselves, we think of so many things, and we want others to think of so many things when they think of us. But I think the one thing that I hope that others get from me and what I hope I embody is very much my positivity, because I feel like it's growing harder and harder to be positive. And so that's why I think it's so much more important to be positive and to kind of spread that to others. And so I think that is something that I hope is what makes me me, is that I very much have a constant drive to just look on the bright side and be like, guys, it's not that bad. Everything will be fine. I think that's definitely a big part of me, is positivity and optimism. Even though I also have my pessimistic moments, but I try to look past them myself to not bring it down to that, if that makes sense. So I think that's me.
Totally makes sense. Especially knowing you. It definitely fits. It's and what I'd like to add to it, just from my experience of you, is there's a lot of ways to be positive, and you somehow manage to exude these positive vibes without the slightest hint of being like fake, or it's like you bring both positivity and the realness, and that is such a rare gift. It's really hard to do, but it comes so naturally to you, and I think that's why my observations were, people were just drawn to you. And I think that's got a lot to do with it, is you've got this incredibly special mix of just like these really positive vibes without a hint of fakeness, with like bringing the realness too.
That means a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just speaking facts here, Kynaat.
Thank you.
Why don't if you're willing to do so, just maybe tell the listeners a little bit about this grand global adventure that you were on recently and the context for us knowing each other.
Yeah, so I was one of the Beret scholars in a 9-month journey to 7 different regions. And so we went to a different country every month. And we would spend 3 weeks in a base city, and then the last week we would go to either a nearby city or a nearby country, and we would have a fellowship that was more structured and more themed. And then we would also have morning programs in the base cities with different speakers, professionals from all these different areas, sharing their stories of success, stories of failure, stories that just impacted their lives and that they wanted to share to, the up and coming youth. And yeah, so it was a crazy, crazy, crazy journey with about, I want to say like, I'll include staff. So I think like 120 of us around from all over the world, all different walks of life, from some from uni, some not gone to uni, some not even graduated high school. So it was kind of a big melting pot of every different type of experience that a young person could have had. All of us together, sharing those, learning from each other, and just experiencing the world in a way I don't think has ever been experienced before. And so, yeah, it was just a very crazy journey. At times it was intense. At times it was the most chill ever. And at times it was terrifying as well. So I think it was just anything and everything that you can ever feel and ever see, we got to do in 1 year, which was pretty amazing. So that is what I did.
I love it.
And I know Jason here because he was our wonderful dean, looking after us and making sure none of us were left behind on a plane. So that was amazing. None of us ever were. So great job.
Well,
Yeah.
I can't take the credit. I mean, you know, the caliber of team that we had, leading this group of students, just an absolutely incredible team of professionals that I was really, really fortunate to have the chance to work with. Maybe because I have a warped mind, listening to you speaking just now, what I'm most curious about is, you said sometimes it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Do you have anything front and center in your mind about maybe a terrifying time on the program that you'd be willing to share about with our listeners?
Yes, but I don't know. Okay, maybe it's not terrifying, but I think it's when you have such a unique opportunity that like no one has. Like this is a very special thing that so many things in the universe had to align for each of us to learn about beret, apply, and then get in. So it's kind of scary when you think, oh my goodness, what if I waste this opportunity? What if I finish this year and I think I didn't use it to its fullest? Because how many times am I going to be in Senegal with 20 kids from around the world? Or how many times am I going to be in Brazil, with 120 people from around the world? So it's the uniqueness and the once in a lifetime aspect of it makes it so scary because you want to make the most so badly. But also going through the program and coming to the end, I realized like I will never think that I made the most because I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly finding new things I could have done or like I will go to a city and then I will leave and I will learn something new about that city and think, oh my gosh, when I was there, I had no idea that the building I was in was this significant. So I think it's terrifying thinking of the regrets you could have, but then you kind of grow to understand that you're going to have regrets because you're growing even more and you're learning so much. And it's good that you have regrets because it means that you're learning more and you're not just stuck in one place. So it's just terrifying to think that you wasted something. But it takes a little bit of growth to accept that, things will be left behind. And that's okay. But it's scary at the same time. So, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, no, I love that because I think what you're getting at kind of a really core principle of human existence, which is, life is limited. It ends. And there's always more we could be doing. There's always more we could be learning. There's always more we could be experiencing. And I think it's wonderful if you can make some, first of all, like you've done already, is identified that, and then also make some kind of peace with that at a relatively young age, because then, that's going to set you up for a life that's not based in regret, right? Where you're sort of seeing things from the angle of abundance, right? And the endless abundance that this life offers us. So thank you very much for those reflections. Just a brief aside for the listeners, that one of my experiences with this program was just every once in a while, like, how is it that we're doing so much and experiencing so much, and how do we get our heads around this? So with that in mind, and understanding that you went through, it's mind-boggling, like the sheer volume of experiences that you had is just it's very hard to get one's head around. So with that as background, is there anything that any one story from your travels that just pops to mind first as something that you would want to share about with our listeners?
In terms of a story that has just stuck with me, or something that I'm just
Something
made
that
me
stuck with
question
you.
everything.
Or
Okay.
great, maybe something that made you question everything, because that probably stuck with you, right?
There are so many things that made me question everything. Um, I think something quite early on was, so we had our base city in Sao Paulo, and so we had different fellowships within Brazil. So to the Amazon, we had one to Patagonia, to Peru, um to Rio. So I did the one in the Amazon rainforest, and it's just it's I think it's the first time I really realized how you can never know anything until you see it and until you experience it and feel it. Because, we all think of the Amazon and we think these huge trees, big green leaves, like these huge insects, and you kind of have an image of Avatar. I feel like everyone, when you kind of think of the rainforest. And so when we went, it wasn't really like that. I mean, it wasn't also the season it would be like that, but it was so far from that. So it was so far from this, you know, fantasy version, that I kind of started to realize, okay, I need to learn more about what the Amazon is supposed to be. And it's not as if it was disappointing or anything. It was absolutely amazing, and I probably will never forget those 10 days ever, and I'll probably never stop talking about them. But it was just the first time I was in a place that I had such a different expectation, and I was met with such a different reality, that I started to kind of question. And then the big point was the first time we visited an indigenous tribe. They kind of had this performance ready for us, and this souvenir stands that were handcrafted things that they were selling for tourists. And I was kind of taken aback at how structured it was and how much of a performance it was. But of course, people have to make an income, so it's fine. And then they started talking to a few of the students, and they spoke Spanish. And so a few of our students spoke Spanish. And then we come to learn that they're actually indigenous to Colombia, and they were kind of persuaded to come to this land 40 years ago in order to make an income and be part of this kind of tourist circuit. And that is when my mind was kind of absolutely discombobulated, because I just had never thought even that there could be an industry for this, or that people would even consider to do this. And I kind of had this like, oh, they're selling their culture, they're selling out. And then you realize, like, because of climate change and all these different aspects, they can't live as they have for so many years. So they have to find new ways to adapt to the way the world is becoming. So they have to find new resources and new ways of income. So it just was kind of like, I always thought I was a very open-minded person. And then as soon as I learned this about this tribe, I was like, oh my gosh, how could they do this? This is so weird. And then the more I thought about it and the more I talked to others, you realize that people do what they have to do, even if they're an indigenous person, if they're someone in corporate in New York City. Like, everybody is just kind of trying to make it work. And you can never blame anyone for that, because, the world is very complicated. You have to do things in complex means. So that exposure kind of made me realize how much more I have to grow, and how much more I have to learn, and how much more I have to understand. And I have never in my life read anything about this or heard anyone talk about this kind of growing industry for, tourism, cultural tourism, that people are forced into but semi want to be part of. Like, I've never heard these perspectives. So I just that is that is kind of what showed me that experience is literally the biggest teacher you can ever have.
Mhm.
And going somewhere and discussing is the best teacher you can ever have, and the best way to learn. And no matter how much you read, there are things that have not been written, even though so much has been written. There are things that people don't know about or people haven't understood. So I think that is one of the things that has stuck with me. That was a little complicated. I went into a lot of layers there, but I think that's the biggest thing that I've just thought of for since that happened. I've thought about it about all the time.
Mm.
So yeah,
Um, well, you're spinning my head around a little bit here too, Kainat.
sorry.
No, in the best way, in the best way. Because there's a bunch of stuff that's what I'm noting is a couple of things. First of all, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more about the need to get out there and have experiences, which for me has been like life and career defining, right? So
Hmm.
why I do this work, um, and so that's kind of background to all of this. But I'm imagining the different ways in which human beings could have responded to this epiphany that you had.
Hmm.
So you shared like this sort of I don't know how we characterize it, but just like, oh, they're selling out, right? So
It's a
it
spiral.
could.
It's a very spiral kind
What
of
do you
thing.
mean?
Like it's just a constant spiral of what is moral and what is not. And us being like, for example, I'm saying, oh, they're selling out, right? But
Hmm.
then I'm
Hmm.
also a tourist contributing to this. I'm giving an incentive for this to continue existing, but I'm also giving them exposure, right? They want
Hmm.
exposure, and I'm taking pictures and I'm posting it online. So it's you're going down this constant spiral that am I doing this for them? Am I doing this for me? Am I doing this for the outside world? Who are they doing it for? Am I helping them? Kind of am I just propping up a terrible system? It's a very spirally thing, and that's why it's stuck with me for so long because I've never really gotten to a conclusion.
Hmm.
But so I think I yeah, so sorry, you can continue what you were saying.
I love the spiral metaphor, um, for a number of reasons. One of them is that I think what it captures is um, it's challenging to ask these questions. And so when I say that there's a number of ways to take that epiphany of, oh, it's like something's off here, right? I think a typical human way of dealing with that is it just ends there. It's like, oh, look at these, there's sort of a negative judgment of the behaviors of others, but you didn't do that. You you activated your curiosity about your own thought processes, your own actions, your own place in the system. So there's a curiosity about yourself and a willingness to ask difficult questions about your own agency, putting it in the context of systems, and then empathy, like actually taking the effort to put yourself in the position of somebody else and question, what choices would I make if I were in this situation? Like, so those three things, that's like the big leagues when it comes to like the kinds of ways in which human beings, like if every human, can you imagine like a world in which we greeted those kinds of shocks to the system as opportunities to learn and empathize, which is exactly what you did.
I
That would
think
be amazing.
but I do think that I have had a very unique set of experiences being a UWC student as well, and also being
Can
in
you just say
Beret.
for the?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
I'm interrupting intentionally. Just can you tell the listeners what UWC is?
So UWC stands for United World Colleges, and it's a movement of 18 boarding schools around the world that are built on the missions of peace and sustainability.
Hmm.
So I went to one in Hong Kong. I was lucky enough to do 2 years there, and it's kind of it already starts you to ask these questions when you're faced with the dilemma. why is the world like this? Why do I feel this way? Why is this happening? How do I help? So I was kind of lucky to already have that foundation, but I think the biggest value of Beret is that you have so many other people that have just seen the same thing I've seen, but have thought a completely different thing. And so you start having these conversations, and your friend will be like, "Oh my God, yeah, this was so much fun." And then you're like, "Yeah, it was fun, but wasn't this a little odd?" And then, you start realizing how different your perspectives are, and you start sharing. And that's when I think curiosity and empathy and all these things really start to, get nurtured more, is when you realize that we just saw the exact same thing, but have come away with something completely different. So I need to understand how you saw that, and how you need to understand how I saw this. So I think it's naturally I wouldn't have done this, but because of this environment that I was in and the past 2 years that I learned like this as well, very much gave me that, okay, Kynaat, you need to question this a little bit more. This is not okay. So I think in the current world, it's not something that we all are just born with. I think it's definitely something that these programs can help us get to. And everyone has the capacity to ask these questions. So I think it's just a matter of teaching people to ask those questions. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. And I love your observation there at the end that everybody has the capacity to do this. How can we, it's a skill set, right? And how can we have more and more humans have exposure to the skill set and actually apply it? Because that's another thing that you did, right? You didn't. So you had these 2 years, fantastic, wonderful. And yes, you're fortunate to have had exposure to that. And you actually applied it, right? You actually, in the moment, actually applied that skill set. And this is the example that you chose, but I know that there were dozens and dozens probably of similar times throughout the year that you did that. Here's another question for you. Okay, so I can't remember when you were sort of giving the lowdown about Beret scholars, if we mentioned the number of countries, 40 plus countries that the Beret scholars came from. And we started the year with, I think, 104. And then some left along the way, and then some joined actually along the way, and we ended up with 95 crossing the finish line at the end of the year. But anyway, so traveling the world, you had peers from over 40 countries. You definitely know a thing or two about how to communicate and collaborate across cultures. And I'd love to hear any insights that you might have to share with our listeners about, insights that you've gained about communicating and collaborating across cultures.
I think, to be honest, I've never really thought of the barriers, because I've never really experienced a huge barrier with someone. Because I think the most important thing is to always be open to listen and understand. Because I don't think I've ever heard anyone say something and completely shut them out and said, I'm not going to even engage with this. So maybe that's why I haven't really thought about it too much. But I think that is because I've never come across a situation where I felt a culture stopped me from being able to engage with someone. Because I think the most important thing you can do is just engage and listen and realize that they are from a different place, and it can be completely different to you. And also you have to realize that you don't know all the cultural nuances that come with being from a different place, because I don't know if this has made sense actually. I think it's just, there are so many layers from being from a different place. People have their family upbringing, you have the foods you eat, your seasons, your weather, the kind of people in your country, your language. There are so many things that define the way we are, that come from our culture, that you can never really you can never really assume why someone is the way they are if you're not from that culture, if that makes sense. So when it comes to communicating to someone across another culture, you kind of have to just realize that you don't know anything about their culture. You have to realize that whatever they think is because they're from a specific environment that you haven't been exposed to. So of course you're not going to be able to understand or maybe agree or accept what they're saying, but you have to realize that they have been brought up in a specific environment with very specific factors that have led to them thinking this way. And if it's a bad way, it's not their fault. They were born in a specific place with certain opinions. It's not their fault. And so I think it's just always knowing that we're all like products of our environment, and nobody is born, hating anyone, or nobody is born having a wrong opinion or even a correct one. So we all get to that point in a certain way. And when you're talking to someone from a different culture, from a different community, you have to realize that you don't know it all. And maybe the perspective that you have is completely incorrect. I think it's just important to listen, but also to question yourself. And to question why you think the way you think. Because there was a lot of situations where there was someone on a completely other side of a conflict that maybe I have an opinion on. And initially I was like, how can you think that way? And then I learned about this person and I was friends with this person. And then I realized if I grew up in this place, I would have literally had the exact same opinion. I would have thought the same way. So it's very much just where you were raised and who raised you and all these things that define who you are. And you can, wait, I'm losing my point a little bit, but you can never hold someone accountable for where they came from. Yes. So you have to just kind of listen and try and understand. And if you don't understand and you don't get along, that's okay as well. You don't always have to agree to, cooperate or to build a relationship. You don't have to agree on everything. But I think it's just about finding certain common grounds and being able to understand the humanity of each other. That's the most important thing. Because, okay, I said a lot of things. I think it's just a roundabout way of me saying that these borders that separate us don't make us that different. I think that's what I'm saying. I'm so sorry. This is such a complicated question for me because I've been brought up very cross-culturally, West and East. So I guess I've never really been exposed to not that. And so it's kind of been embedded in me now how to deal with these. So it's interesting when I have to put it into words. But I think it's just important. Okay, I'm going to sum it up. Because this one I also went on a spiral. I think it's just important to remember that we're all human beings and we all have a certain, we all want to do good. We all want to be good people. And there are things that make us different, don't make us bad. Oh my goodness, Jason, I'm so sorry. This one has got me a little bit in a turmoil.
What are you apologizing for? This is gold. I love everything that you're saying.
It's just, I think, okay, I know now, I think. Okay, I think we're, generally what I've noticed is that we all use the fact that we're from different places to kind of define us. And although your culture and your roots are important, at the end of the day, we're all on the same planet. We're all just people. And just because you've been born here and you believe something that is very prominent here doesn't mean that we're not both humans and that we can't understand each other. I think because we use borders so intensely now, and, borders have really, they physically separate us, but they also very much ideologically separate us, even though they don't have to. So I think because we've all gotten this mindset, oh my God, they're from this country and I'm from this country. How could we possibly get along? How can you not get along? You're just people that were happen to be born in different sides of the planet. But at the end of the day, we all came from our mothers, and it doesn't really make too much of a difference. And it doesn't take that much effort to understand and listen to someone and to, give them the benefit of the doubt. So I think it's a very complicated thing. It's just, I think the simplest way is just be open-minded. I think I just said that, but in a roundabout way. It's just be
There's
open-minded and yeah. Okay, that's it.
I so appreciate the journey that you just took us on, Kainat.
I'm
It's very
so
intentional
sorry.
to just. No, oh my God, I really have no idea what you're apologizing. I mean, I don't know if do you think I was expecting some kind of like well formulated like PhD dissertation on the topic of intercultural understanding? Because that's not at all. I just wanted to hear what came up for you, and I really appreciate
Hmm.
your willingness to just share. Um, there's so much in what you said that is, like I said, it's gold. Um, I kind of wish I'd been taking notes. I'm glad we're recording this because there is a lot in there. Like at one moment I had the thought, because one of the things I've done professionally for a long time is and that we did some of this on the road
Hmm.
as well, is intercultural understanding is just a theme, and skills for effective communication and collaboration across cultures. And it's like you're a walking, talking embodiment of what it is that this field is trying to do. And just so some of the themes that came up, I love what you said. Like, you drew a distinction between, on the one hand, understanding, and then on the other hand, like agreeing or liking. And I think, right out of the gates. So first of all, it's wonderful that you've had the background that you've had, where this is just sort of who you are, and just how you approach the world. That isn't true for most of us, and I can attest from my own mind and the minds of most of the people that I know, that what will often happen first when cultural difference is present is like, I don't like that, and I'm supposed to like it, and if you're going to try to make me like it, I'm not going to, because then I have to sort of give up a part of who I am. It's kind of a scarcity based mindset. Uh, and what I'm picking up on from you is no, it doesn't have to be that way at all. In fact, I'm not necessarily all that interested or focused on liking or agreeing, but I am focused on understanding. Is
Yes.
that an accurate reflection of what you're saying?
Very much, yes.
Yeah. And I think that just because what that does is it's a radical shift in the fundamental frame of how we look at other human beings, from scarcity to abundance, from like, you're trying, like, I have to give something up and I'm going to hold on so tight, to like, oh, wait a minute, there actually is room for all of us here. I love it.
Yeah, I'm sorry I used like a 4,000 word count on a 100 word answer.
Did I say that? Did I say, Kainat, you have 100 words to present the perfect
No,
encapsulation?
no.
Of course not. Of course not. That's why I say I really appreciate your willingness. Yeah, I don't know what it was like for you to look at me just kind of smiling at you and nodding while you're speaking. Were you hoping I was going to jump in and say something?
I think I was like, I wonder what you're thinking, because I know you had this experience and you led like some exercises for us. So I know you probably have a better formulated way to express this. So I was just thinking, I don't know if I'm communicating well right now.
I thought you, well, the listeners will decide for themselves, but I think you communicated extremely effectively.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna take your word for it.
Good, 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 good. And really appreciate you sharing. And again, it's like, I think, if I can then just try to encapsulate what I hope folks will take away from this, is the words that you just shared and the way that you shared them, and where it all led to me. It points towards what's possible for our
Mhm.
species, what's possible for our species. obviously we've got a really, 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 really long way to go, generations upon generations, and lots of hard work to get there. But I think that what you shared with everybody, and I think also just the kind of energy that that sort of emanates from you and was emanating from you as you were sharing, it's really not. It is a radical shift. It's not normal. It's like abnormal in the best possible way. It's a different way of seeing what it is to be human, and a much more expansive and hopeful way
Yeah.
of looking at being human. So thank you very, very much for your willingness to
Thank
go
you
there.
for thank you for understanding what I was saying. That's
I
most
feel
important.
lucky. All right. Well, I'm looking at the clock. I don't want our time to end, but time marches onward, and so, um, can you tell the listeners, share with the listeners about what's coming up next for you?
Um, so I am committed to university that I will be starting this August. And it's a university in the US. It's in upstate New York, St. Lawrence University, and I'm going to be starting with a few political classes because I'm hoping to major in political science, but this is up for debate. I've been looking at law tracks, but I'm still figuring out the contribution of lawyers across the world and how I would place
Mm.
myself there. Um, but yes, so I'm that's what I'm currently doing, and that's what I'm gonna be doing. So I'll be spending about 4 years there, and then yeah, who knows what will happen after that. But I think yeah, I'm just excited to take classes that I'm interested in and to learn things at a college level because I think it's drastically different from high school and the way you learn in high school. So
Yes. I can attest to that as well. I mean, I'm not specifically St. Lawrence University, but definitely university learning is a different
mhm.
kind. It's a different kind of an experience. Um, yes. Okay. This is the question I was going to ask you. So, historical context. We're recording this on July 22nd, 2025, at a particular moment in U.S. political history. And I'm wondering what feelings you have about coming to study in the United States at this historical moment.
I am I'm honestly okay. I'm split. I'm very excited because I've wanted to study in the US for a very long time because I've had exposure in London and in Pakistan, and then the next big city or the next big country is America, right? Everybody kind of
Mm.
wants to have a little bit of a foot in America in some way. So I've really always wanted to go to uni in America. And then in the last kind of, 2, 3 years, things changed a lot. And so I have an aspect of a little bit of fear as well because I'm from Pakistan. I'm also Muslim. I'm also a woman. So there's a lot of things that makes these parts of my identity a little uneasy, but at the same time, like you said, it's such a significant point in history that I'm going to be right there. I'm going to be seeing it from my own eyes. I'm going to be experiencing the effects of all these changes. So it's going to be very interesting being there and, experiencing it as someone who's never lived in America with all these people that have, this is their home of so many years. And so I think it's the my whole feeling is that I'm excited more than anything. Is that I'm just looking forward to it and I'm trying not to put too many judgments before I get there because things look a lot scarier with media and just looking at something from the outside. And so I think it's just going to, like I said before, you kind of don't know anything until you experience it. So that's pretty much what I'm going into this with. Um, but yeah, it will be an interesting time.
I love it. It's very much, it sounds like your approach to your coming university experience is very much in line with your overall approach to life, which is like a couple of things I'm noticing is like, yeah, I could go down that rabbit hole of negativity, but no, I'm going to assume that there's going to be some good learning there. And how am I going to learn? I'm going to go actually do it. Yeah. So I'm personally like, I'm just really, really happy that you're coming to the United States and embracing this experience. You know, I've spoken with a lot of young folks these days who have decided not to come to the United States, also for completely understandable reasons. And it makes me really, really sad. And it's just wonderful to have. I'm happy for, and I'm excited for everybody who's going to cross paths with you at St. Lawrence University, because those are some lucky people.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you very much.
Of course. Yeah.
I hope I impacted a little bit.
You can't help yourself, Kynaat. It's just kind of who you are. It's how you roll. And I think the listeners have a really good sense of that now, having had the chance to be in your presence for a little while. So just one more huge thank you to you for taking some time and energy to be with us today.
Thank you. I'm so happy you thought of me. I felt so special. It was very nice.
Well, as I said to you before we hit the record button, it was like you just popped into my mind pretty much instantly as somebody I wanted to speak to.
And you're very good at moderating, so I thought this would go very well, to be honest.
Well, thank you for the compliment. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Kynaat. If you did, please tell at least one friend about it. Give us a 5-star rating and follow the podcast. That will help others find us. Until next time, let's keep our heads clear and our hearts open.